Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar with SAV Transportation on understanding LTL without losing the shirt off your back. My name is Amanda Goyette. I am an admin assistant here with AERA, and I will be moderating today's event with my colleague, Rob Monroe.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, Rob Monroe here. I look after membership and technical development at AERA, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar with Josh. For those of you that are members of AERA, or you're going to become a new member, or you're going to renew this quarter, pretty cool prize we've got from Robbins. We got this concentricity gauge set up for checking valve seat concentricity, and we do these quarterly giveaway prizes every 3 months. So this one, we're going to be drawing the winner for this one on October 1st. And if you want more information on that, you can just go to our website. You'll see there's quarterly giveaway prizes listed there. Just go out to aera.org and you'll be able to see that. So pretty cool prize. And again, that's for anybody that's a new member who's renewing this quarter. All your names go into a draw, and then we choose that winner, and then they can win that prize. Josh, he's basically a wealth of knowledge in logistics and shipping. So he's a corporate partner of ours with AERA, and we have their program. They've got a really good discount program if you're a member of AERA to be able to use. And Josh is going to spend today just sort of showing you how to use the program, give you some tips and tricks on the best way to save some money, that kind of stuff. So Josh, how's it going today?
It is going good. Thanks for the opportunity. Good morning and good afternoon. So just kind of give a rundown on freight. A lot of members call and say, I want to ship something. What are the flaws in shipping? Everybody's scared of the add-on bills, but we're going to kind of go through that here and kind of touch on a few things and give you a demo of our platform, show you how you can do outbound shipments, inbound shipments, see how it works. All right, so I came from 18 years in the automotive industry. I've been involved in all aspects of automotive, from bookkeeping, sales, inventory control. So SAV has been kind of a leader in the automotive marketplace. We've been around, our fleet has been around for 35 years, and our brokerage division and our LTL division, we're integrated with plenty of companies around. We build our own software. We do everything in-house, so we're not farming it out. There's plenty of companies out there like 3PLs, that you've heard of, anything from freightquote.com, Unishippers and whatnot. They're all kind of a subscription model, or they have some other type of programming behind them that they have to pay corporate fees, franchise fees. We don't have any of that. So try to get a little bit of an understanding on what shipping is. So we want to understand the current freight environment, freight classifications, NMFC number, and advantage of using a 3PL, what the future holds. Kind of going through, where freight has gone. We've gone through the ELD mandates, driver shortages, COVID, truckload markets, and we keep going in this cycle of freight costing more. Then we get in a good spot, and 2 months ago it looked like freight was going to go down, and we were all in a good spot. Then YRC closed their doors, and everything changed again. So fuel's been shooting up. That costs as a direct driver of where current freight rates are. Volume rates have increased. That gets in the LTL market. So I'm going to kind of go through these because I have 2 sets of slides here that I kind of want to touch on. So carriers have their strengths and weaknesses. When you're shipping to John's Repair, and John's Repair is a 2-stall shop, not all carriers are created equal. So one carrier might have a $25 liftgate fee. One might have a $150 liftgate fee. Certain carriers charge, if you're selling a finished goods product to a dealership, or you're picking up from a dealership, those situations can be limited access. I'm really going to touch on the limited access type situations here in a moment. So trends in LTL shipping volumes increased volume of levels of failed pickup temps, on-time delivery metrics suffering, complete state embargoes. COVID was a perfect example of that. And carriers are enforcing their accessorial charges more than ever. We'll talk on that coming up. But what you want to do is be a shipper of choice, attractive freight, have it ready on time, make sure your documents are ready, and be accurate. So be accurate on your weights and dimensions. If you're not accurate on that, you're going to get upcharges, and upcharges nobody wants because it takes right out of the profit level. This is obviously automotive related, but perfect example. I tell people, anybody that's shipping body parts or engine parts or whatever it is, you want to ship your product on a platform that it fits. So when you ship air, you pay for air. So the carrier basically looks at this when it comes back to their terminal and they inspect every piece of freight. If you're not covering 65% of the platform, they can jump you a freight class. Understanding NMFC freight class, do it right the first time so you're not wasting your time, the carrier's time, your money. So weight, value, density, and packaging are very important. NMFC class, most of the things that are shipping out, obviously the engines, the finished good or the core, your general engine, if it's on a pallet, not crated, will be class 85. You have an inbound core return coming in, you're going to rate that at 70. We'll dive into this a little bit more on the demo, but it is very proper to freight class your things, or otherwise you're going to get an upcharge on your bill. There's a difference between weight-driven pricing, pallet pricing. Pallet pricing is kind of on your way out. I mean, if you're a massive volume shipper, regional carriers will do pallet pricing, but it's based on regions. You won't get shipping from New York to California. You'll never get pallet pricing because the carriers don't want to do it and they lose money. So know what your shipment value and carrier coverage is in case of damage. Talk about insurance here coming up. We're not going to dive into advantage of a 3PL. It's basically, we'll show you that on the demo of it. It's basically we're giving you a boatload of carriers with one click, one rating structure, and we're giving the option for insurance. All right, so here's the nuts and bolts of where you're going to get in trouble. And again, I don't try to be negative on this, but this is the concern that I get from everybody. I've been subpoenaed a couple times now for opinions, and we're going to kind of go through that. So standard LTL services are defined as business to business, dock to dock shipment. Generally, these shipments do not require any additional equipment, pre-calls to arrange pickup and delivery time. In short, dock to dock, and our business that you're working in, I'm working in, we're littered with non-traditional delivery. So residential delivery, without reading through this whole thing, a residential delivery fee is associated with an additional service offered by an LTL carrier. So it doesn't matter the size of the truck, extra time delivery, poor routing, non-commercial deliveries. It's difficult for the trucks to bang money, right? So if you're outside of the terminals area, way out there, and you're going to a residential, they're not banging their 10 pickups an hour. They need to be profitable as a carrier. That's why they charge the residential fees. It's all about covering their cost. Limited access delivery in some ways is like residential. So if you're shipping to a farm, a church, a school, a college, that is what we consider a limited access delivery. Dealerships. It really could be multiple things, but when a semi truck goes out to deliver in a 53-foot semi, they're doing it with that truck. So unless you are rating it with a limited access delivery, they're not going to know to send out the right truck. And then the limited access also comes into the fact that, okay, you're delivering to a farm. Are they going to be out there to deliver? A golf course, they don't have the equipment, the dock to dock type situation, military bases, the list goes on. So can a 53-foot semi maneuver in that area? No, then it's applicable for a limited access charge. I'm from Minnesota, so during the spring months, we have road restrictions that will prohibit a truck, most trucks over 10,000 pounds on a road up here. People from the south don't get that, but it's something to think about. So Liftgate, any situation where they don't have the ability to unload the shipment safely. It's all about liability. We live in an Amazon world, kind of a sue happy world. The days of unloading with a cherry picker, those are gone. you look at the thing, over 150 pounds on a skid warrants a liftgate if they don't have a way to unload it. The other things to think of, if your skid size is bigger than a standard pallet position, it warrants a liftgate. There is, I wrote a summary about this to the carrier. Residential deliveries, they're different for every area. With most carriers, like our thing that we have built with R&L is a $25 liftgate, $25 residential fee. There's other programs out there, but we pretty much lead the country in that. There are nuances that logic doesn't work. So the island of New York, if you go into the Bronx, everything's limited access. Florida Keys, they can be excessive. Things like nowhere North Dakota, New Mexico, some of Colorado, where it's just so expensive to do those deliveries, where they're driving out 3 hours from the terminal to make a delivery of 8 shipments. They compound the shipments and bring them out. That's why they charge more for it. So they're covering their space. It's all about profit. Talked a little bit a few slides ago about how things got bad. COVID really changed the e-commerce business. I mean, we were seeing an average general rate increase like you'd see on your small pack with FedEx or UPS of 5 to 7% a year. Over the last few years, we've seen 20 to 27% increases in fuel and the overall base rates with carriers. So right now, for example, our fuel rate with our fleet is running about 64 cents a mile. We were as high as 96 cents a mile. So we're back on the climb, which when you're dealing with weight-driven pricing, freight costs more money with the fuel. And the higher the fuel gets, the higher your rates are going to be. So that's why you kind of want to shop around the carriers, regional carriers, depending where you are, that cover a 2-state or a 5-state area. Their fuel surcharge is less than a national carrier like FedEx Freight or R&L Freight, some of the bigger ones. One thing that you can always think about is have in the back of your mind that you think like you're the carrier, and then you'll have a little bit of understanding. When you look at the delivery location, you say, can a 53-foot semi fit in here? Should I be charging the right fees for it so you don't get hit on the end, because that's your bottom line, just like it's the carrier's bottom line. The very important thing in shipping LTL is understanding carrier liability limits. Whether you're shipping out a finished product, a high performance engine that you built for somebody, you have all new components in it, it's built to OE specs or better, the carrier still rates that as 10 cents per pound. They rate it as basically a used or a junkyard motor, which is completely unfair in the scheme of things. I believe, and I have no control over this, but it's controlled by the NMFC board, the National Freight Classification Board, that it's 10 cents per pound. Doesn't matter if you're shipping used, reman, rebuilt, that's all they're going to cover. And for them to cover that, you have to have it signed on the proof of delivery at the time of delivery. We'll talk about kind of a Labor Day theory of how insurance works when we get to a demo of our program. But so you ship out a reman 5.3 engine, weighs 680 pounds on a skid, dressed, and you sold it for $3,500 and the freight cost you $125, you're only going to get $68 back in recovered cost if they damage it. So density versus weight driven pricing. 99% of the stuff you're going to see out there is weight driven pricing. If you're selling finished goods, your cranks, your cams, your engines, that's all the Class 85, and I'll show you that again when we do a demo. But if you're dealing with carrier direct pricing, every carrier has a base rate. Not all base rates are the same. Every carrier has a discount. There's always a minimum that a carrier will only do things for. So you think, why is it never less than that? Well, it's just simple logic that they won't do that. But based on your weight, based on your minimums, the higher you get in weight, the more you pay in fuel, and they actually do that off of the standard charge. So let's say they're charging you $125 to get there, they charge fuel surcharge. Right now the carrier's at roughly 35 to 40% based on where they are. You know, the higher dollar ticket amount it is, the more fuel surcharge they get. The logic really doesn't work, but it works in their profit scheme, where they're capturing money and making money off on fuel. Carriers do good when fuel is high. Density-based items, these are anything, you know, you're doing a vendor inbound or shipping parts back to one of your vendors, gaskets, oil pans, whatever it be. These would be density-based items where you need to calculate your density, and it's about the carriers maximizing trailer space. Real estate's expensive, so when you're shipping stuff, you know, and people have a habit of putting 48, 48, 48 when it's really 48, 40 and 24 tall, it's going to drive your density up when you match your dimensions. I'll give a couple of examples of that, but pricing is complex. Don't fabricate it. You can't cheat the system. The carriers reweigh, dimensionalize everything. It's just like UPS, and the reason they do this is, you know, Amazon will ship you a chair in a 3x4 box, which only needs to be in a 12 by 36 box because it collapses down. I mean, they've ruined a lot of things in freight and small pack. You know, why do you get penalized when you're doing inaccurate weights? Think of a truck going down the road, a 53-foot semi. They made 24 stops. Each customer of theirs put a pallet on there, and now they're each off by 100 pounds or whatever, and the standard truck holds 44,000 pounds of weight. They go in and smack into a minivan full of 6 and kill them. This is why they punish it, because they're on the hook. So, and it's a profit machine. They get paid on reweighs, reclasses, and fuel. So they just want you to be accurate. Otherwise, they're going to profit off of it. Obviously, small shops and everything don't have the ability to scale your freight, but you want to be as accurate as you can because you're paying by the pound. Take pictures of your product on the scale with a readout, because the carriers play games, and they'll basically say, okay, you shipped out this engine, you know, a 5.3, you're saying it weighed X, we're saying it's this. It's easier to get acquitted of murder than it is to prove a reweight. There is not a more accurate description of LTL freight that I can think of. Picks help fight the fight. Other things to think about: over-dimensional charges. Pre-COVID, 8 feet was not an issue. Some carriers don't want anything over 7 feet. So, you know, if you're borderline, you're shipping something out, parts, whatever it is, just be accurate so the rating will come back accurate. Product labeling, always identify and label your freight besides the bill of lading. You know, use pallet labels if you can, or an invoice. We provide pallet labels with the bill of lading, so if the shipment gets lost, there's another traceable item on that package. If you want to put something on accessorial fees like that Liftgate, where a lot of people put on their bill of lading, Liftgate not required, or no inside delivery, which inside delivery is, hey, they deliver it to John's Repair, they use a Liftgate, but bring it into the shop for them. Write that on the package, not the labeling on the bill of lading, because the coders will see it, and all they see is inside delivery or Liftgate, and they want to add it and send it out for delivery like that. Make sure your information's relayed on the bill of lading accurate. So if it's John Smith, but it's John Smith Repair, label it as John Smith Repair so the carrier doesn't identify it as a residential shipment. You know, we're trying to get the product into the customer's hands or whatever it be as fast as we can with little and no delay, because the Amazon world we live in, everybody wants it now. If you're using shrink wrap to protect your product or hold on gaskets or whatever it be, think outside the box. Everyone uses black or clear. So when that shipment does get lost, you know, think of using hot paint, purple, something, or stencil your product or put in an identifiable sticker that'll make it found and located quicker if it does get lost at the terminal. I can always say this: less is more on a bill of lading. So the more description you put in about your product, the easier it is for somebody that's sitting behind the desk to code it the wrong way and revert back to something else. So, you know, if you're shipping a block or an engine, put engine or block or gaskets or just parts to try to just alleviate somebody from misclassing that. couple things not to do in LTL freight: cross dock. Example of this would be we use FedEx to pick it up, but we're delivering it to a Dayton or a Estes or R&L terminal. You don't want to use a carrier to deliver it to somebody else's carrier. And the 680 rule, we already talked about that. We're in automotive. It's like shipping a Mazda Miata tranny on a 4x4 skid, right? When you ship air, you pay for air. It's valuable real estate. Use a pallet or crate that fits your product. Packaging engines and parts. Anything you put on a skid is going to add weight. Weight is going to drive your cost up. It adds to the fuel surcharge. If you're worried about stability, box structure, cutting down overall weight, getting more out of your engine crates. So we talked on classing reman versus non-functioning, 85 versus 70 for freight class. And once I show you the demo, we'll understand that a little bit more. But footprint, think like the carrier. So I'm here to help. Even if you're not a customer, need an opinion, packaging suggestions, we have in our system. We know there's fraudulent buyers out there. We put them in our system. You'll get a warning that says, hey, this name and this address has been known to be a fraudulent buyer. We monitor it. Value proposition versus truckload, partial truckload, LTL. Truckload shipments, you know, if you're shipping a whole truckload or bringing in a truckload of stuff, carriers have liability limits, and truckload carrier has a minimum of $100,000 worth of cargo liability. Depending on what you have, that can be raised. Sometimes it raises rates, but most carriers have a minimum of that. Partial truckload, you know, you're buying a honing machine or a couple other things. This is a great avenue because you have the protection up to that 100,000. So if you buy a machine that needs to go air ride to reduce damage or just liability and control. I mean, partial truckload, we have more control on it. We can tell you, hey, this shipment is due in this day. We're going to pick it up this day. We can do live GPS tracking on it. You know, LTL is more of the cable guy mentality where, hey, it's going to deliver between 8 and 2. You're going to get it sometime in there. You know, pickups are generally done in the afternoon from 1 to 5. Just to think like that. So I can send out a group, a master catalog on how to rate this stuff. It's very simple on that. So I'm going to go into the login here of our portal. Rob, Amanda, can you see the login screen okay?
Yeah, you're good, Josh. We can see that. Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is a demo of the SAB portal. So this is where all of our freight shipments are derived from. So it's very simple. We create a platform that is very user-friendly. There's not a lot of lipstick to it, but there's a lot of brain power behind. So whether you're doing vendor inbound or outbound to your customer, it's very simple. I mean, you're always going to start with the zip code to the zip code. So for example, we're going to just say we're doing a shipment out of AERA's headquarters. We're going to ship it to Detroit. So you have the option to click your Liftgate, your limited access right off the bat. We have tools built into our system to identify these type of situations when you go to enter the document information that will basically warn you, hey, you're making a mistake, you're shipping it to a residential, and we want you to go back and modify the shipment. So we also have a eBay integration. If you do sell on eBay, you can import your stuff in there, and once it's processed or a shipment, we're actually going to pre-identify it and pull it into the system. But once you complete the shipment and dispatch the truck, it will send tracking data directly to eBay. So down here, we have our set commodities, you know, whether you're shipping a core return or you're sending it to somebody else to get worked on it. We can add whatever you need. We just want to make sure that you're doing it correct. So an auto core basically is non-functioning auto core for reman purposes only. You get class 70 over 85 in most situations will save you some money, but you don't want to label a finished product going out as an auto core. So we're just going to say we're sending out a finished product. Say we're shipping out a 500-pound engine on one pallet, and then we always want to do our pieces of weight, because there are things in LTL now that have changed over COVID since COVID is dynamic pricing. So if a carrier wants freight going to this location because one, they're not getting enough, they will basically lower their rate based on dynamic pricing to get you a better price. So we're just going to say we're 48 by 40 and the engine's 36 inches tall. This is where the liability limits come in. The Labor Day theory, you sell a reman rebuilt engine to John's Repair. It's shipped out from your place on Wednesday. It's Friday of next week. It's Labor Day weekend. The shop's thinking about just getting out of the office, having a 3-day weekend, throwing down some beers, and they don't inspect the freight. So the POD's there with the driver, proof of delivery. They don't acknowledge that, hey, the left head is cracked up. Now they come in on Monday or Tuesday and they notice this part is broken on the engine. The carrier is basically going to tell you, tough, we're not even going to cover the 10 cents per pound. So now you're going to have to pay to get the freight back, replace the head or whatever it be broken on there. And you're out all this money. You're out the freight cost, the return cost, the cost to reproduce this engine. So we offer a full value insurance. So it's roughly $18 per 1,000. So, and you want to never overinsure, never underinsure, because then you run into co-insurance factor. But let's just say we sold this for 5,000. We can always adjust the freight amount later, but let's say the freight's going to be 200. So we insure it for 5,200. We just go to the system, calculate the rates, and it'll bring you carriers. So you'll have a variation of carriers. It'll say transit days. Just remember, this is in a perfect situation. I mean, transit days are estimate. There is no thing as guaranteed freight in LTL. There really isn't anymore. We're on the right track to do it, and then YRC closed their doors, and now the carriers have to recover that 10% of freight across the country that YRC was handling. So they basically washed it. They washed it in COVID, and now they're washing it again. So we can choose anybody. The one thing I tell people is, R&L is probably the top of the line carrier when it comes to a non-traditional delivery, because their trucks are equipped with lift gates and they can handle it. So, the worst thing that you're going to do is, it's going to John's Repair and everybody ran out to lunch. You're only getting hit with a $25 lift gate versus a $50 lift gate or a $45 lift gate, depending on what carrier it is. This is where you can just put in your customer's information. So we're just going to say John's Repair. We're going to do 1234 North Main Street. This is where you can put your pickup number, any pickup instructions, whatever you need, PO, delivery times, that can all be changed. So what happens, now you're ready to complete the shipment. Let's say we're going to set it up for Friday. Dispatch truck. Our system is going to hit USPS data, CDINE, and a couple other things to map that thing as a residential. I think I might have done a different address here, but let's see. So basically, the system is saying, yep, you're shipping it to a residential or a commercial address. Otherwise, it would throw a warning at you. It'll pop up and say, hey, please check this address or click residential liftgate, because your carrier choice with a liftgate and residential might be substantially different with XPO. And now R&L is actually the front runner because of their accessorial fees are cheaper. So it'll give you a spot to print your bill of lading. print your pallet labels. And I always suggest using pallet labels for whatever you're doing, because this is the golden ticket right here. Your bill of lading number is on that bill of lading. It's another way to track that package if it gets lost. Very important. So we also offer a status notification. So when this shipment is picked up from your place, your customer would get an email that says, hey, your shipment's in transit, the carrier, the pro number, and it just helps you, look more professional, and they're informed all the way. So they're not calling you, hey, where's my shipment? Where's my shipment? They're going to know because it's going to show up in their email box. So on our system, everything can be done there. So you can file your claims on our system. If you do insure, your claims generally get paid out in 7 to 14 days. Just really depends on how the backlog is with insurance. If freight is extremely booming, carriers get back. But let's go back to that situation now, that Memorial Day theory. That shipment delivered and they signed the POD, but you did not insure it. Your average is about 60 days for a carrier to pay out the claim. You still would file it through the SAB platform if you were using our thing, and we would fight it. It's just like if it was signed and you had insurance on it, we would just basically fight the carrier for subrogation on the insurance claim. That can be all done from there. All your quotes that you've ever done can be found on here. So let's just say wanted to requote the shipment going to Detroit, say Liftgate residential at that 5,300. It will give you obviously the lead carrier or the cheapest carrier. So let's say your customer doesn't want to pay the residential fees. You can click on our system and find the closest terminal to them, and they can pick it up at the terminal as well. And it also has the terminal contact. Let's say you need to call and say, hey, where's my truck? And they'll tell you where it is. Everything can be done by the tracking tab. If you ship something here, it'll have a link that says the trace number, tracking number. Tools here where you can find out any information on any of the carriers that we have. The one really cool thing about our system is, so you sold a finished good to John's Repair. You can do a quote reverse to get the core back, or to send a core or whatever it be, and it'll do the reverse logic of it and put it in here. So let's say it's a core. Let's calculate the rates again. And you can fill out the documentation, which you already have that in there, and you can submit, change the pickup date. Hey, John's gonna have the core ready for us, banded down, send them the documents over. The one real big thing that you need to do is always make sure that you have your paperwork there and ready. Again, the carriers are trying to bang out as much freight as you can to be as profitable as you can. So if you're doing scheduling core return pickups or vendor inbound stuff, let's say if you have a vendor that's charging you so much and you want to get a better deal on it, you can go through here and get that done. We also have a spot on our website where you can upload images of your shipment. So you have your engine or parts crated, you can upload them here. So if there is a fight with the carrier, we're going to have that documentation to say, hey, Mr. Carrier, here's how it was packaged, shouldn't arrive like this, and we'll take care of it. So again, quotes, this can be done from anywhere. So, you're trying to buy some parts out of Chicago, and it's coming back to you. This is where the density comes in. So let's say you're buying gaskets, oil pans, whatever need a bulk order. So say we're ordering 250 pounds worth of parts, one pallet, and our dimensions are 48-40, and they got it stacked 36 inches tall. This is where the parts come into play, where they're density based. Our system actually has a built-in density calculator. So instead of an engine being at class 65, engine parts, miscellaneous stuff, gaskets, all that, the freight class will be computed for you. And we actually have behind the scenes, if you do a lot of that or some of it, we can build a template in there. So if you're wrong on your density, our system will automatically correct you. Again, you can decline insurance. If you're shipping new from your vendor, that is considered new. But anything remand, rebuilt wise still falls under the parameter in the NMFC guidelines that it's 10 cents per pound. So give you a different carrier. Always your carrier mix is ever changing because some carriers want freight to certain areas and some don't. So with all that, I guess Rob and Amanda, I would take questions and turn it back over to you.
Super. Thanks, Josh. That a lot of really good information there. I especially like you're mentioning about think outside the box. I can't think of how many times, especially us at AERA, we're going to trade shows all the time, and we're walking into like a freight room to try and find our stuff, and that we've got a pretty large decal or that we put on there that we can recognize. But I can see where if you've got a warehouse full of stuff. Thinking outside the box and making your stuff stick out is a really good point. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's extremely important. Make your stuff stand out.
Yeah, exactly. So couple questions, Josh. Here's one for you. In your opinion, are we always going to see fuel surcharges moving forward?
Well, fuel surcharges have been around forever and they will never go away because it's a profit maker for the carrier. They will never go away. I mean, I don't see the day that we will ever go back to country-wide pallet rate pricing. It won't happen.
Okay, so we're going to see those. That's something that we're going to see for forever, kind of thing.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Another question they've asked: what kind of charge could we expect if the driver finds that the engine core has leaked oil? What kind of charge could we expect later on?
Most carriers are forgiving the first time, but if it leaves your place, and that can depend a lot on the terminal manager, they don't like to see it, and we do see it quite often. It's the first time you do it, you're going to get a slap on the hand. The second time you do it, you're probably going to lose that said carrier from even stopping in or hauling your freight. I mean, it just gives everybody across the whole organization, it just gives everybody a black eye. So, I mean, that's very important if you're getting a core return back from a shop that you sold it to. You want to tell them, hey, you have to have it banded to a pallet, some type of securement, whether you're using ratchet straps or whatever else to do it, because you don't know who you're selling to. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that can turn a wrench, but can't run a printer or a fax machine, and you get failed pickup attempts on that, or they just don't have it ready. It's just about educating either the end user about keeping things proper.
Okay, all right. I think Amanda, you might have had a question come in.
Yes, I did. So Josh, they're asking if they have multiple customers they're sending cores out to, is there a way to schedule them all to be picked up at once to maybe, could they save some money if they get it all on the same truck and they've got multiple shipments going out same day?
So different customers are going to be a different thing, but let's say you have multiple cores going back to somebody, you're going to have what we consider kind of a volume type situation. And I can kind of explain that. So we can do a simple quote here and just say, okay, we're shipping something to, I'm just going to grab a random zip code. So Omaha. So let's say we're sending 6 cores back and roughly 3,000 pounds you're going to get what we consider volume rate. So it's a volume discount type thing. So volume will get you a better rate, but it generally also sometimes takes more time. Here's a perfect example. Your volume rate is $659.29 shipping 6 pallets, as opposed to here's a perfect example. This is a standard LTL rate where they want $13.19. So the carrier rates it basically because they want that volume. It's a single stop, which is the goal of any carrier. Is I want to stop in this place and I want to grab 6 pallets. I want to go down the road and grab 7 or whatever it be, and I want that truck filled up as fast as I can and get it back to the terminal. It's the onesie twosie type shipments that the carriers charge for because they're making more stops and it's more cost to them. On the single type shipments, if you have everything going out one day, but you're going to 3 different locations, it might be 3 different carriers that are the biggest bang for your buck. So XPO might be the lead carrier by $50 on shipment A, but shipment B, it's R&L, shipment C is ABF, but you could rate it based on there and, kind of see who the front runners is. The goal, on why 3PLs like us exist is we're giving you multiple carriers and different services for each one. Hopefully that answered it, but.
Super. No, thanks, Josh. Well, what we'll do, just to respect everybody's time, I know everybody's busy. Any questions that come in for Josh that we have, we'll make sure to get those over to him. It's been a great topic. I know, Josh, we, on the tech line, we're actually always taking calls about, what's the best way we can save money on freight. It seems to be, it's one of those costs that you never really can factor in properly. You always sort of get with the back end charges and that kind of stuff. So I know shops really appreciate what you've put together here today, and I thank you. So any questions we have, we'll make sure to get those over to you.
Wonderful, and I'm always available. You can call, text, email, and even if you're not and you just need an opinion, we're happy to hand it over.
Super. No, thank you. So what we'll do now is we'll go back over to Amanda, and then we'll wind things up for today.
All right, real quick, just a reminder, all of our webinars can be viewed on YouTube. Give me a few days to get the latest one up there, but we do take them all out there. So go out, search for Engine Builders Association or AERA Engine Builders. Find us and make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications to know when we upload new videos. And lastly, when you go to leave today, there will be a survey that pops up. Just take a moment, fill that out, and let us know how we're doing. It's a great way for us to get feedback. There's a spot in there to ask any additional questions you may have. We also always welcome ideas on what you'd like to see us put out webinars on in the future. And then the AERA contact information. If you want to reach anyone at Team AERA, just call 815-526-7600. Or if you have any questions for us, you can always email either myself or Rob. Our email addresses are listed there. And if we can't answer your question, we will pass it along to somebody who can. So thanks once again for taking time out of what we know is a busy day. We appreciate it, and we hope you have a great afternoon.